Well, unfortunately, things are changing everywhere. And this video is one that has to be made, unfortunately. And it's something that I knew that would happen at some point, but it has happened and I'm not quite happy about all the restrictions. Now, before I talk about this scooter, which is the Loco Motion Pro that has been sent to me by Loco Scooters, so a huge thumbs up to them for sending me this scooter. There's a reason why I'm making this video, and there's a reason why this scooter is actually right beside me. So if you live in the EU, Ireland for example, there have been a lot of restrictions put in place over the past year or so. And recently in Ireland, for example, they have become so strict with electric scooters. It is what it is at the end of the day, but I'm going to talk about the restrictions in this video, share my opinion and why this could be applicable to you very soon, even if you are in the US, because they are also becoming restricted there with certain limits. Okay, so let's talk about the restrictions in Ireland, for example. Electric scooters are, of course, now fully legal in Ireland, but they do have restrictions. So, for example, the motors on electric scooters, it can only be one motor, max 400 watts, which isn't a lot, but stick with me on this one. Max speed has to be 20 kilometers an hour or less. Max weight has to be 25 kilograms. They also have to have front lights, rear lights, and it also has to have brakes, dual brakes, as in, let's say, an electronic brake and a mechanical brake, whether that be a drum brake or a disc brake. Now, this is actually quite a big problem because a lot of electric scooters now have more than 500 watt motors. They weigh more than 25 kilograms, so it leaves basically limited scooters to basically come onto the market and to be fully legalized in certain countries. So as a side note, you will have to do your own research, whatever country you are, whether it be the EU, US, Canada, it doesn't make a difference. You have to know your local laws. So that brings me on to this, which is the Loco Motion Pro, which came out recently by them. Basically, this has, for example, there is another restriction as well, I'll talk about in a second. This has 400 watts of power from the rear motor. It does have a weight of around 20 kilograms net weight, which again is within the restrictions, and it has a top speed of 20 kilometers an hour. I will be doing a brake test in this video, I will be doing a hill test in this video, a top speed test and a suspension test, so stick around for that because it is important for me to review this as well and see what it's all about. They also need to have now a plate stating, for example, this is the Motion Pro from Loco Scooters, 36 volt battery, 400 watt power, max speed 20 kilometers an hour. And then of course you have the CE and the manufacturing details, Loco Scooters Limited. But don't worry, because there actually are scooters, for example, like really high powered scooters that you can take off-road on private land with permission. So don't worry, it's not all bad things. This doesn't just apply to Ireland, by the way. This applies to most EU countries nowadays. So yeah, just be careful wherever you are. So before I go ahead and test the Loco Motion Pro, I want to give my overall opinion. Let's talk about the motor restriction, for example. It doesn't make sense to me, okay? Because let's say you are a bit on the heavier side and you have a scooter that has a restriction, whether that be 500 watts, 400 watts, for example. And of course, if you live in a hilly area, if you have a low wattage motor and if you are on the heavier side, you're not going to be able to climb them hills, to be honest. It's going to struggle. I think a motor would be a sweet spot for, I think in my opinion, would be around 750 watts. And that should climb hills no problem in general. I think the motor restriction just doesn't make sense. But let's talk about the speed. 20 kilometers an hour is an okay speed for a, let's say, a very busy area, a city centre for example, where there's so many people, there's a lot of traffic lights. That's an okay speed. If you live in more of a rural area, I think 30 kilometers an hour would have made more sense, to be honest. So you have different speed restrictions depending on what kind of area you're in, and they could just have these signposted like the way they have signposted for so many cars. It's just such a strange kind of regulation. I wish they would change that, and I hope at some point in the near future they will. But one strange thing within the regulations is actually the weight of the scooter. So this scooter is, I think it's just 20 kilograms weight. So it is very, very lightweight. I've had scooters that are like 40, well over 40 kilograms, which are ridiculous. Why in the law have they decided to put that kind of weight limit of 25 kilograms in a majority of EU countries? It just does not make sense in my opinion. I think if a scooter has like extra suspension, it will be heavier. If it has bigger motors, of course it would be heavier, and bigger tires, bigger stems, adjustable handlebars, these all add weight. So should there be a weight restriction on electric scooters? No, there shouldn't be. But one thing I do agree on, which is basically lights. You need a front light on an electric scooter, you need rear lights and indicators. I do agree on that point. Of course, safety is priority. But for some reason, in a lot of countries, they don't require a helmet to be used. I think this should be mandatory. If you see somebody riding a bicycle, an electric bike, an electric scooter, helmets should be mandatory. And if they're not wearing them, they should not be allowed to ride. What happens if you want to ride a faster scooter that has more power, bigger wattage, and is in a completely different level? I think there should be a system where you have to pay tax and insurance. So if you had an accident, of course you would be insured, and tax, of course, you're allowed to go on local and public roads. This is the case in some US states from what I understand, and I would love to see this brought across Europe, because I can guarantee that a lot of people that have high powered scooters would pay tax, pay insurance. Of course, once it's not too crazy, they would pay it, including myself and a few of my friends that I know that ride electric scooters. Why is there not a system like this in a lot of EU countries? I honestly do not know. It just doesn't make sense. I would really like to know as well your thoughts on this. Do leave a comment below and we can continue the conversation on down there. Maybe you disagree with me, maybe you agree with me. I would really like to know your thoughts. So let's go ahead, test the Loco Motion Pro, see what it's all about, and then we'll come back here and I'll give my overall verdict. Well, taking the Loco Motion Pro out of the box is easy, and you should be able to do it on your own. It was packed very well and there was zero damage to the electric scooter. Just to take note as well, you actually do get a 3 amp hour charger with this scooter, so it can charge it relatively fast, because of a lot of electric scooters that I have reviewed only come with 2 amp hour chargers. So that was actually a bonus in my opinion. Assembly is very easy. You just have 6 screws to screw in. Make sure you have all, of course, the screws straight so that you don't damage the threads. Take your time doing this. This will literally only take you a matter of minutes. And then, of course, as always, fully charge the scooter and do pump the tires to around 45 to 50 psi maximum. Double check everything, then you should be good to go. Okay, so this is the first basically test ride on the Loco Motion Pro. Can I get up to that 20 kilometers an hour? It is at a full charge, so you can see my speedometer here as well, GPS speedometer. Torque ain't too bad from the 400 watt motor. So we're at 16, 17, 18. So there you go. Of course, 20 kilometer hour top speed. It's basically, you might as well say 99% accurate. Stability on this scooter is actually not too bad, because the handlebars are not too narrow, so stability wise is okay, which is excellent for basically tight spaces if you're in like a commuter area as well. Just to take note, today is 0 degrees right now as I am riding this electric scooter, and there is a small bit of wind coming towards me on it as well. This scooter should be able to do a moderate size hill, so I will test that. Another good thing that I like about the Loco Motion Pro is actually the deck space. If you can see here, I am a size 10 and this deck is absolutely gigantic, and you can maneuver your feet around quite easily as well. Grip wise, the deck is actually very good. Nice rubber texture, so really easy to clean. Of course, it does have the green from Loco scooters there. I guess you could say their trademark colour. But first impressions are quite good. We can do a speed, not a speed test, we can do a brake test now in a second. This does have regen braking, and it does have a front drum brake, so it should be able to stop very fast. So let's say we're going, the speedometer is reading 20 kilometers an hour on the display, and we're at 19 kilometers an hour on the GPS. So let's say you need to basically brake really fast. Let's go. Whoa, yeah, very good. Stem as well on this. I do really like the stem design. Nice chunky design. We'll take a better look at that now in a second. Okay, so we have basically a very bad gravelly area here. So let's do another quick suspension test. It actually performs quite decent. And they are pneumatic tyres as well, so of course they do provide cushioning, which is what you need, because solid tyres are definitely not the way to go. So from grip standpoint and general comfort with that suspension at the front, that's pretty decent, to be honest, for a commuter. Okay, so we're at the hill test here. Not many scooters can get up this that are single motor driven. So first test we'll do is a zero start. This hill is extremely steep. Doesn't look like it on camera, but it is. So can the Loco Motion Pro get up this with that 400 watt motor? Zero start. We're at about 80% battery, so let's go. Oh, haha. Okay, I didn't think it would be able to do that, but it can. So yeah, actually I'm more than happy with that, to be honest. Let me do a bit more of a hill test, because there is another one here. Okay, so this hill here is actually steeper, so let's do another test. Oh, it's going. It's not stopping either. It's increasing speed. Okay, there we go. So yeah, actually from a hill climber, this little commuter scooter is actually pretty impressive on hills, so very happy. So as you can see there, the performance of this on hills actually did surprise me. It got me up quite a steep hill at a zero start. All I can say is I'm quite happy from that. The torque is not too crazy on this. It's not an off-road scooter, of course. It's not something where you can go absolutely nuts and jump off curbs. This is primarily a commuter scooter going from A to B. It does have a 36 volt, just over a 13 amp hour battery. Realistically, distance on this would be max 40 kilometer distance. From a safety aspect, of course, like what I mentioned, you have the front light, rear light, plus of course you have that drum brake at the front, plus the e-braking as well, which is actually very good stopping power. And the best thing about drum brakes on electric scooters is you can adjust them over time. Once you maintain them, you don't go too crazy. You know, it's nothing to worry about. And I'm going to tell you something really cool about the scooter in a second, but stick with me on this one. Suspension wise, on the Loco Motion Pro, it does a decent job. It is just standard front fork suspension, but there's not a lot of banging there. Decent travel will get you over those relatively sized bumps with comfort, plus you do have those 10-inch tyres as well. Okay, so let me briefly talk about the stem. It's quite thick here. It's very thick around this area. Really durable design. So you just pop in your pin, which is on just the opposite side. This folds down, and let me just give you a closer look at this. Very thick nut here, really strong latch mechanism, and it's quite firm. Plus, if you ever do need to adjust it, you just simply have a nut here that you can adjust if you want, if it happens to become loose. But to be honest, I would not be really worried about a stem design of this. I've seen enough stems on enough electric scooters to know what's quite decent. And this scooter does fold as well, so let me just put it down. It has the hook that's actually integrated into the deck. So again, very easy of use, particularly if you are hopping on and off public transport. But let me talk about one of the best features about this scooter. Many electric scooters out there don't have a good IP rating, and I've only tested a few that are quite decent. But on this Loco Motion Pro, get this, IPX7 rated. That means it can be ridden in all sorts of weather. Now, as I always mention, if you get caught in rain, and if it's just a quick shower, just pull over to one side, let it settle, then continue on your way. If you have no choice, let's say you're coming home from work, it's late at night, it starts to rain, and you just need to get home, you can still ride the scooter, and then when you get home, just dry off the scooter. So from an IP rating, it's actually quite decent, and underneath the deck as well is actually sealed really well. So let me show you. So the way the scooter is actually designed underneath is actually very good. I can't imagine water getting in there, even the back, where the back motor is. Underneath, everything is actually sealed really well, which is an excellent sign. But to be honest, as I always say, be cautious riding in the rain. And as well, the Loco Motion Pro comes with 2 NFC keys. Okay, by the way, this has 3 gears: Eco, Drive and Sport. So let's say somebody who tries to rob your scooter, they turn it on, it's asking for the NFC key. Without an NFC key, nothing can happen. The scooter does beep, so if somebody's trying to rob it, it'll make a slight beep. Of course though, always have good locks on your scooter. So if I want to unlock this, I simply just get my NFC key here. You get 2 of these, by the way, and you just pop it on the scooter like this, and then it unlocks. You of course have that really good thumb throttle there. Grips quite decent on this, and then you have your bell here, which is really nice, and yeah, pretty standard to use. One of the most easiest bells, and overall construction of the scooter, no major complaints at all about it. With that huge massive deck space, indicators left and right of the scooter, 10-inch tires, very easy to clean. So let's just recap. If your country is strict regarding wattage, let's say max 400 watt, max 20 km/h speed, max 25 kilograms in weight, and has to have the brakes and the lights, this is the scooter that I can only think of right now at the time of shooting this video that falls into those regulations, whether you be in Ireland. The UK are still in limbo from what I understand, so if you are in the UK watching this, what's the basically regulations there right now for electric scooters, I'm not 100% sure. In other EU countries as well, it's the same, max 20 kilometers an hour, and it has to have max wattage of some motors that are 400, 500 watts. I would really like to know what the regulations are in your country and what your thoughts are. Value wise, I think the Loco Motion Pro is worth every penny, and the reason why I said it is because it has a good IPX7 rating, it has 2 NFC keys, it's built really well, very quiet, sturdy scooter, gets you from A to B within a decent time limit as well. And I think as well, it's peace of mind at the back of your head, knowing that if you're in an area that is very restricted, wherever country you're in, that this scooter will get you there safely and you won't have to worry about getting pulled over or getting into trouble. So if you have enjoyed this video, please give it a like. It is 0, it's nearly -1 degrees at this point, and my hands are numb. And I'll talk to you in the next video.